Welcome to a documentary about this photograph of vintage downtown Bryn Athyn. This favorite photograph of mine was taken in 1900. I will take you on a guided tour of this photograph and explain to you what you are looking at. I will also explain to you, as I have done before, the exact location from which this photograph was taken. This is Central Avenue. We call it Alnwick Road today. And here is South Avenue, off to the left. And here is the inn, built on pretty much the same spot as Tom and Nina Klein's house is today. Now let's move back across Central Avenue to the spring house that supplied water for the whole community of Bryn Athyn. That same spring house and the giant sycamore tree beside it are still there today. And closer to Central Avenue is the old windmill and water tower. The windmill would pump water up from the spring house up into the holding tank, and that would provide water and water pressure to all of the community of Bryn Athyn, which back then was pretty much just the loop of Central and South Avenue. Here is a vintage photograph of some Bryn Athyn women and girls posing beside the spring house and sycamore tree. And here is a very old photograph of some Bryn Athyn children playing underneath the water tower. It might seem a bit peculiar that some of the children are wearing Civil War uniforms. Now look carefully to the rear behind this one boy in a Civil War uniform, and you can see a giant square block of stone upon which the leg of the water tower rested. You can still see 3 of those 4 blocks of stone along Alnwick Road today. Now look off in the distance and you can see an old covered railroad bridge. That is closer to the Bryn Athyn Cemetery and farther north than the other covered railroad bridge of that day. Later in this video, the covered bridge will help me demonstrate where the picture was taken from. This home belonged to Louis Pendleton, an author who wrote, among other things, a book titled The Invisible Police. Further down Alnwick Road was the old Lesher farmhouse, a building that later became known as the Inn Annex. Built on to the end of the old Lesher farmhouse was the clubhouse. The clubhouse was the first structure built by the community to serve as their place of worship. You can see the Lesher farmhouse beyond and to the left, and you can see the clubhouse sitting right along Alnwick Road at the S-curve. If you look carefully, you can see the inn in the distance to the right. If you look carefully, you can see the corner of the clubhouse extending almost out to Alnwick Road right on the S-curve. Later in this video, I will demonstrate to you exactly where that clubhouse was. It was right before the border of the property that now belongs to Russell and Nora Cooper. Now let's move back across Central Avenue to take a look at this structure, Stancott, the current home of Brian and Sandra Odner. And off to the left, peeking out from behind the inn, you can see Pendle House. Pendle House used to belong to Bishop W.F. Pendleton, but now it is the home of Kevin and Barbara Odner. Moving back across Central Avenue, you can see the home of Colonel Wells. A little bit further down Central Avenue is the home of Emma Osplund. That home is now occupied by Rick and Kelly Osplund. Just beyond Emma Osplund's house are some structures that I believe are on Creek Road. Further to the left and behind the inn are some other structures in the distance that were part of the home called Caprice, the one that is now owned by Andy and Louise Dom. So now let's come back to the inn and then move off to the left to some homes on South Avenue. I believe that those 3 homes are owned by the Sinistveds, the Bostocks, and the Maddocks. Here are those same 3 homes. Can you see the resemblance? Above those 3 homes and off in the distance are some structures that I believe are along Old Welsh Road near Jefferson Lane. Now I would like to discuss my theory about where the photograph was taken from. I believe that the photograph was taken from the old Smith house at 2771 South Avenue. Here's another look at it. I think that the photograph was either taken from the roof or from the third floor window in the gable end. If it was taken from there, it would have to have been from the gable end or from the roof in order to be able to get such a wide angle. Please recall the covered railroad bridge off in the distance, just to the left of the big sycamore tree. Here is that railroad bridge today. If I draw a line from the railroad bridge back to the Smith house at 2771 South Avenue, you can see that that line passes just to the left of the giant sycamore tree. It fits perfectly, so I can conclude that the photo was indeed taken from 2771 South Avenue. By the way, the heading of the line that's drawn from the Smith house to the covered bridge is, as you can see, 290.64 degrees. And a line drawn from the Smith house to Stancott has a heading of 270.77 degrees. Using this photograph, a calculator, and a ruler, I concluded that every inch was 6.5 degrees. Using this information, I can get a better idea of what some other things are in this picture or where exactly they're located. I calculated that the center of the water tower sits somewhere on this line that has a heading of roughly 286 degrees. I also calculated that a line drawn to the closest edge of the clubhouse to Alnwick Road has a heading of 279 degrees. So I drew a line from the Smith house with that heading and saw where it intersected with the sidewalk along Alnwick Road. It showed that the corner of the clubhouse was indeed right before you get to the property line of that property owned by Russell and Nora Cooper today. I used these same calculations to figure out what was off in the distance, the houses along Creek Road and on Welsh Road. I hope you have enjoyed this guided tour.